Hello and welcome to the BTS Read. This is a podcast in which I, Naya, your host, will talk or rant about the different discourses regarding the worldwide successful band BTS. Today's episode is going to be about BTS and the constant uphill battle they face regarding US pop radio. I would like to start off kind of recapping the US ON promotions. So about a month and a half ago, everybody knows BTS had their ON era. And ON was the official track that they were going to try to push on radio. Now, we all know that BTS has struggled quite a bit with being embraced by radio here in the US, mainly because of xenophobia and racism. As much as they like to pretend that it's not, we know that's exactly what it is anyways. They also like to try to blame it on other things, saying they have no demand and so on and so forth, but we all know that's obviously not true, but we'll get into that later. Because BTS and Big Hit seem so earnest to try to, I don't want to say infiltrate, because they deserve to be in those spaces as much as their Western peers, but definitely assert themselves within U.S. pop radio, that whole sphere. They've done events for iHeart, they've done stuff for Sirius XFM, pretty much doing the rounds, trying to get in these radio hosts' good graces. But as many of us know, regardless of the events that they saved or the stages that they did or the interviews that they sat through, it didn't really amount to anything. Two of iHeartRadio's biggest stations only played ON once respectively on its debut day, even though I distinctly remember iHeart posting a video of a bunch of, executives or radio DJs, I don't know, whoever the fuck they were, sat in a boardroom waiting tooth and nail to announce BTS as performers for Jingle Ball, and their reactions were just so performative. They were giving us face, they were giving us drama, just whole Emmy nomination worthy performances that we just didn't ask for, just too damn much. And I just think it's funny because they are the exact same ones who refuse to play them. But they were more than happy to celebrate being able to finally profit off of BTS, in which that is their entire goal. This is a tangent, but that's radio's entire problem with BTS and the Western industry at large. But they hate the fact BTS refuse to sell their souls over to them. They want them to be as reliant on them as their Western peers are. They want to reinforce and protect the idea that they get to say who's successful and who's not, that they get to control who has a career and who doesn't. And BTS just continuously defies that. I have said this before, but it burns the West to their core that BTS came in here without their permission. BTS didn't even knock on the door, girl. They just kicked that door down, sat their ass in the living room and was like, make me a sandwich. And the West is pissed because now BTS has made themselves home here and they're not leaving and they don't know what they can do to get them out. The best they can come up with is cheating them chart-wise via the radio, which is exactly what they did for the ON promotions. On top of them getting absolutely no radio play, no airplay whatsoever, Billboard decided it wanted to get a few hits in as well. They omitted 14 hours, 14 hours worth of streaming and data for ON, which essentially cost us a top 3 debut. I'll never forgive them, and they can all burn in purple hell. But in true ARMY fashion, we weren't just going to sit here and take this beating, especially not publicly. So we took upon Twitter like we usually do and created a hashtag like we usually do to, make some noise. We contacted journalists, radio DJs, everybody and their mom was contacted about this, and we received absolutely nothing in return. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. Everybody who usually has BTS in their mouth, using them for clickbait, using them to get followers, using them for this, that, and the third, had nothing to say. We got maybe a total of 4 articles to cover the situation. Because I use humor to cope, looking back at it now, I can kind of chuckle, giggle, kiki at it. But at the moment, in that time, it was just so disheartening to realize that BTS truly have no one but us. Honestly and truly, because at the end of the day, their industry friends don't say anything. Their peers, their artistic peers don't say anything. It truly is only ever us who call shit out. And it's exhausting, not gonna lie. But because we are who we are, we didn't allow it to just completely break our spirit, and we had a good comeback anyways, regardless. We had moved on, at least until this last week with the whole 5 Seconds of Summer controversy. Now, I do not keep up with 5 Seconds of Summer. I listened to a couple of their songs. They're cute, sound like a new age Maroon 5, but I did notice their fans using our hashtag earlier this week, and I was like, pause. One, who told you could use that? into what the hell goes on. So I put on my detective wig and went investigating. And it turns out that about 10,000 or so of their sales were not counted towards Billboard 200, which cost them the number one spot. Now, though it wasn't the same type of sabotage, it was somewhat within the same vein, I suppose. But I don't have a problem with fans or fandom advocating for their artists. Hell, I'm an army. I really have no room to speak. However, I do have an issue with our hashtag being co-opted and BTS's battles being only taken serious once it's repackaged in whiteness. A person of color's experiences or their hurdles only being acknowledged and or taken seriously once a white person experiences kind of an inkling, maybe a little smidgen of it, is a tale as old as time, but an issue all the same. And I was not finna let it fly. So the bitter army in me decided that it was time to be petty and angry. And let me tell you, there's nothing like army anger. Alongside the TL, I started adding everybody, like everyone and their mom, everyone who was rallying behind 5 Seconds of Summer. I was adding them like a motherfucker. I was like, you gonna explain why you ain't had shit to say with BTS, but all of a sudden, all the bass in your voice now. Like, you gonna tell us exactly why they're the difference. Like, I want you to explain it to me, share it with the class, girl. And of course, people started flubbering and floundering and like, oh, well, but, blah, 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 and stuttering and all that other bullshit. But then you had radio dickheads who started making a sport out of gaslighting us, giving us excuses like the only reason BTS has no one to support them in radio is because they never fostered a good relationship and all that other bullshit. And armies were like, no, you're not finna lie. Like, you're not finna lie to our face because they didn't spend the last 2.5, 3 years sitting through those stupid ass interviews, entertaining your condescending ass questions and tolerating your white nonsense for you to sit here and tell us that they didn't try to foster a relationship with you. What you really mean is that they don't do the pay to play, and that's your issue. Then someone else said that the reason that they had no support or backing was because that they weren't as accessible as 5 Seconds of Summer or their Western peers. And once again, armies were like, bullshit, because what you really mean is that they don't speak English and it makes you uncomfortable and you're not willing to learn or try to communicate with them. Like, what does accessibility have to fucking do with you playing a song that people want to hear? Not to mention, BTS aren't as accessible as their Western peers because they're more successful. They are in high demand all over the fucking world, not just the US. Their Western peers are lucky if they even crack the top 5 of any country that isn't their homeland. So, of course, they have all the time to come play house with y'all. BTS just got shit to do. Like, and that's just a point blank period. And you are not a priority, and you gonna have to get over it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Throwing a tantrum is just not gonna do it, girl. Treating them wrong is just not gonna do it, girl. That's not gonna make them wanna come and be with you. And it's certainly not gonna make them wanna pay you. And I think the worst take was someone, a DJ, I don't even remember his fucking name because he's not that important anyway, saying that BTS and the way that they're treated is solely at the fault of them and Big Hit for, one, not pushing them hard enough, and two, not speaking out against the injustice. And I about saw God, because just how dare you? That is like the perfect example of epistemic exploitation. Expecting this marginalized group to sit here and explain to you how you're oppressing them is just, it's just the utmost colonizer superiority complex mindset. It baffles me that they would expect this of BTS, as if anything happens within a vacuum and like it wouldn't be later weaponized and used against them to make them out to be, the angry people of color. Like, how dare you sit here and try to make it their fault? I should kill you. And then, just to add icing on top of this already fuck-ass cake, K-pop stans decided that we also needed to hear what they had to say. And were, kissing ass to literal Trump supporters and basically saying, we are so glad we don't treat you guys like this and blah, 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 this, that, and that. First and foremost, fuck you, okay? Them thinking that siding with any injustice, as long as it's against BTS, will automatically translate to their faves getting that same opportunity is just comical to me. BTS's album just went #1 and they still can't get ready to play. Your fave's last album just went aluminum and you think they are on the same level? Get the fuck out my face, bro. No amount of English songs or bundles will get you in radio's good graces. But you know what? that is a lesson that they can figure out on their own. But back to more important things like BTS. At this point, I am just more than willing to walk away from radio. And I'm being just straight honest, transparent. It's evident that they're just dead set on not supporting them, so I just refuse to give them any more of my energy. Debuting at number 4 on Hot 100 without radio's help whatsoever is just so sickening, and the fact that ARMYs did that like it was nothing, I know that drives them insane. It burns them to their core, and I hope that they can just marinate in that, like, for the rest of their lives. Like, girl, I just want them to realize that no matter what they do or say, BTS will just continue to be successful. And, it is what it is at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you all enjoyed this first episode. I enjoyed talking to myself in my closet, because that's exactly where I'm at right now. And yeah, I just hope you guys join me for next week's episode.